What's up, guys? I'm bringing a quick tournament report that I had from yesterday. Just gonna go over my match results. Ended up being 6 rounds. Went 3-3. Lost the very last game. Basically, that would have sent me into the top. My tiebreakers were, I don't know what they were, but 2 of my losses went top 8. One of them was first place. I think the other one ended up going X-1. Going into it, so deck list changed very little, but definitely a little bit. So I had 3 Herald of Orange Light. Nothing too crazy. I don't think this card was too good or too bad. You know, it's just a utility card. Nothing was wrong with it. I always felt better when I had one in my hand. Especially, obviously, when you have something like Christie on the field. So, always felt great to have one in the hand, but I don't think it was too detrimental nor too additive to my success. Played 3 Nova Summoner and 3 Shining Angel. So this right here was definitely insane. Obviously, you know, going through fairies, there are certain cards that lead into a toolbox that really just make you think this is what makes the deck succeed. I'll just go in these, you know, these 6 in combination with these Warrior Lady. This right here is what succeeded. This is whatever got me to Warrior Lady the quickest, and then being able to recycle the Warrior Lady with the Alchemist is what won me the game. Any of my games, really. I did also play 3 Christia. To be honest, even at 3, they weren't too bricky. They came up a few times that when you summon Christia, you just kind of win. I think twice I actually just double sacked for Christia to end up going for the win, but they weren't bad. They definitely weren't bad. I did end up breaking on Christie more than once, but I would keep my main deck kind of as it is. I'd make some changes, but overall, these cards right here, along with generally these 2, are what won the game. And when I say these cards right here, I mean specifically the 2 Alchemist, 3 Warrior Lady, 3 Angel, and 3 Nova Summoner. This is what actually won me any of my games, were these cards right here. These were just instrumental. So you know, you always set up the graveyard for try to get to Christia, but if you can't, just being able to go Angel into Warrior Lady or Nova Summoner to Angel to Warrior Lady, or just wall up with these for a turn to ensure you have a monster for next turn, and then just continuously recycling stuff with Alchemist is absolutely insane. Even like with Honest. So I also played, you know, 2 Honest, and then my one-ofs were 1 Gores, 1 Valley, 1 Soul, and 1 Freed. You know, you think Honest would go a lot into these hands and whatnot. And Honest did come up definitely more than a few times, but really just these 6 with 3 Warrior Lady and Alchemist. Those, what is it, 11 cards right there? I wouldn't change those for anything. I think everything else you can play around with, even if some people went for like double Herald, I did find myself siding these out a lot. Not full copies, but maybe even just like 1 copy. I just side them out because some of the matches, I'm like, they're useful here and there, but they're not the greatest overall. In Christia, very often I also went down to 2 copies. So I think I would keep, if I changed anything, you know, all this stuff, I think these numbers are right for me as a player. I might just switch Christia down to 2 copies, and then that might be the only changes that I change to the monster. I'll go over my matches in a little bit, but Freed came up just out of these 3. I think these 3 are kind of the outliers of interesting cards for the deck. I chose not to run Raikou because I do not like the random milling. I guess Raikou's cool as like the one of target destruction, but the random milling is crushing. Cyber Valley, I summoned it a few times, got its effect off once or twice. It's not a bad card, but I actually just ended up hard drawing this way more than I ever went searching into it. And then for Freed and Soul, Freed came up, I want to say it was only 1 time. More often than not, I was just normal summoning Freed just to attack. These cards I actually ended up drawing in opening hands without one of my recruiters multiple times, which was very devastating to say the least. In fact, actually the very last game, I'll talk about it a little bit, but I lost specifically because of these cards and my, you know, going in top. But going into spells, I was originally going 3 Book Moons. I cut it down to 2, and this was terrible. Just for yesterday. So my matchups Round 1 was actually a cat deck, just standard caliber cat. Round 2 was frogs. Round 3 was black wings, like the not black wings, but that Italian black wing Vayu turbo deck with no limit of extermination, things like that. Round 4 was Lightsworn, standard Lightsworn. Round 5 was another black wing, and then round 6 was a hero. So, you know, pretty expected decks with all things considered. But Book of Moon was just not good against any of them. You know, you run Book of Moon kind of to stop really big synchro plays, summons, and things like that. And I guess in theory, you know, you have Book of Moon against, they go normal summon something on a Whirlwind. You can Book of Moon prevent search or whatever, and then swing over the monster next turn. Never really happened in the 2 matches I had against Black Wings. I don't think Book of Moon was that instrumental. And, you know, obviously it's not super great against many of the other decks. It can be, but it just, if I cut that down to 1, even just took them both out, maybe even just move them to side deck, depending on what I end up siding in, I think that might even end up being better. The other spells were Brain Control, Mind Control, Heavy Storm, MST. Nothing to say about these 4. They're fine, but these Book of Moons, you know, you can throw in maybe, I don't know, my body as a shield was something that I probably could toss around. One of my matches against the Lightsworn, I ended up just losing to a top deck JD, but so that was painful, but that's okay. Going into the trap lineup, the only mistake that I think I really made going into traps was only going to Deep Prison. You know, obviously game conditions change based on that actual game and then what you end up playing, things of that nature, and player choice. But I think Deep Prison at 3, I would have loved to always have just a hand with Deep Prison. And Deep Prison was just too good in all my matches. And then everything else was just become pretty standard. I did end up switching down to 1 copy as Legacy. Wasn't bad, wasn't good, wasn't anything special. I don't think I baited anything out, maybe like once or twice. The Frog Monarch player was actually maining Mobius, and I got that off against a Mobius. So it was actually pretty cool that one game let me just get these all, see if I can get all the cards together on screen. One of the matches I had against him in the games, I had a Legacy and Bottomless set, and I think he soul exchanged like one of my cards and just end up using both of them and kind of just won after that. But let me put the spells here and the monsters, try to spread them out and keep them on board. So like I said, round 1 was against Rescue Cat, and this guy, I didn't even get a chance to play against him, to be honest. So he goes first, game 1, sets a monster, sets back row. I knew he was playing Cat because I'd seen him just kind of playing around with some of his friends early on in the day. So I really didn't think much of it because, you know, Rescue Cat's always touted as being a pretty underwhelming deck within the format. And I don't totally disagree. You know, I've played the deck and it kind of steams out. And if you don't draw exactly perfect hands, it feels like you just don't have a chance. He actually ended up going undefeated during the matches. I don't know what happened in top 8. I had to leave and get out of there. I had like a 2-hour drive away. But game 1, he just started by setting a monster. I think he set a back row. I don't quite remember. I could only normal summon and attack, or I could say, I think I ended up starting with Nova Summoner. And you know, when something like that happens, you're kind of playing against between, is it going to be a spy, or are you playing against Raikou? I don't think there's a good or bad way to play, but I think just you have to attack, because if it's Raikou, you don't lose all momentum. You know, if you set and he has a Raikou, you do lose full momentum. If you can set and hope it's a spy and hope he's not running Descendant, you know, there's that. But I ended up just setting an Nova Summoner. It's actually a Bottomless Trap Hole. Or I summoned and attacked. It was Spy. What did I say? I forget. Either way. So next turn, I know I wasn't able to Bottomless his Descendant one way or another. He used his Descendant to pop my back row. Or was it? I forget. I didn't write too many notes, but I think it was Nova Summoner. He popped Nova Summoner, and then he activated Heavy Storm, went into Rescue Cat, double Air Bellum, ripped 2 more cards out of my hand. So I'm already down to, what, 2 cards in hand at this point? And then was able to synchro into a Arcanite Magician in defense. And I very quickly, at the start of this game, as soon as I saw Spy, realized, wow, I don't have really good outs to high defense monsters, things like Reaper. You know, obviously Warrior Lady is incredible, but if they don't have something in attack mode that you can just cycle through your recruiters into your Warrior Lady, you know, it's very tough to get to that position. So maybe some cards that would help remedy that. I don't know what that would be. Maybe like a main deck Lightning Vortex, but you know, fairies have very tough time getting advantage anyway, so I'm not sure that's even the right answer. I'd definitely be looking around for a lot more stuff, and you know, stuff like Nobleman, that's not the answer. I think Nobleman might be an interesting side deck choice, but to side a Nobleman specifically for a cat matchup when you almost never see that, I don't know if that's the right answer either. Anyways, I came to this realization, and I ended up just getting, you know, swamped because of it. Next game, I ended up siding in my, let me actually move these out of the way. I'll go over side deck and extra. Extra is nothing special, but I'll go over the side. But I ended up siding in Thunder King Ryos and a few other cards, whatever they were. But I was able to get a turn 1 Thunder King and then pass. He set one monster. I think he set a back row, something like that. I'm not entirely sure. I kind of forget. And then he passed. So now here I have a choice to just attack with Thunder King. Again, you know, you have to play against what is this going to be. And here's what my full side deck was. Consecrated Light. Nothing crazy here. Consecrated Light, I would just move this down to 1. I never wanted more than 1 side in. Banishers, I'd side them pretty often, but I don't know if I even drew these throughout the day. And then all these definitely came to play. These 4, obviously, these 4 main deck worthy. I do want to move Cyber Dragons just, again, for those 2,000 beaters. I want Cyber Dragon in my main, to be honest. Same with Thunder King. I'd like Thunder Kings in the main. Anyways, so I just summoned Thunder King, attacked into his set monster, ended up being Spy again, so I didn't get over it. He got his Descendant, and I think I want to say it was Book of Moon or something like that. It wasn't Book of Moon. It was something that didn't help too much. But his next turn, he used his Descendant. He actually just had his own Book of Moon, so he set Spy, flipped it again, he got another Spy. Without his normal summon, used his Descendant, popped my field because I couldn't, whatever it was, it might have been just like MST or something. It couldn't stop his stuff. And then he just had an Airbellum. So he blew up my entire field, followed by an Airbellum something, rip another card in my hand, and ended with another Arcanite Magician and defense. So again, like I wasn't able to play. He did make one misplay, and I still couldn't take advantage of it because I wasn't able to get over his stuff. And I don't want to say it was a misplay, but because he had Heavy Storm. So either way, there's nothing I could do, and I don't like setting too many back rows, but there was one point at which he summoned Airbellum and then summoned Doom Caliber Knight, swung with Airbellum, and then Doom Caliber Knight ended up killing the Airbellum. And even that wasn't enough to get me back into the game just because, one, my monsters weren't big enough for his defense. So that was upsetting. Going into match 2, played against Frog Monarch. He main decked Mobius, which was actually insanely good against me because I have that heavy trap lineup. But game one, I think I just ended up losing to a Light and Darkness Dragon. Game 2, I sided in like Massacre Strix, Cyber Dragon, and Thunder Kings. You know, because just being able to go Cyber Dragon, Special Summon, and then Normal Summon Thunder King just really is extremely good against like dupe frogs and things like that. So I did that, and I also sided in Banishers, but I didn't see these at all. But what actually won me the game was we got to a point where I think I had like 4 monsters on field. I think it was definitely like this and maybe a Shining Angel or something like that. It was this and one other monster, whatever it was. And he had 2 dupe frogs, a flip flop frog, and Substone. He used flip flop to put like 3 of them back in my hand. And he might have sacked for like a Caius or something to banish the other, I forget. But next turn I was able to special summon Cyber Dragon, normal summon Herald, go into Black Rose, blew up his field. So he was left with 1 card in hand. I think I had 5 cards in hand at that point because of that, because he bounced everything back to hand. So I ended up winning that pretty shortly thereafter, to be honest. So that put me at 1-1. The next match was against Lightsworn, actually. So I go up against this guy. Game 1, he actually had really good mills all game. But game 1, his mills were like too good that he was milling all of his very good monsters, and he didn't get anything good out of it. So like he would use his charging, but I think all 3 games he might have hit turn 1 solar recharge, like 2 of them, 2 to 3 of them each turn. And game 3 hit charge first turn as well. But he was milling a lot of his monsters, as in he was hitting the Celestias, the JDs, and things like that, that he wasn't getting very much on the back end, if that makes sense. So all he could do was just kind of pass with more or less an empty field. So I was able to take advantage of this game 1 and like beat him pretty quickly, even though he was through his whole deck. Both his JDs were gone, his plagues were already used, and between that and like Herald of Orange Light became in really very good here. Couldn't do anything. Game 2, I just didn't even get to play. And then game 3, we got all the way down to the very end of the game. And this was another player, this Life Swarm player, ended up topping, I believe. Last I saw him going to last round, he was in the final tables, or the top tables rather. He was like table 4 or something like that. I had an Alchemist on field with 2 Charistias in hand. He didn't have anything. But what happened was he had, I think, 3 cards left in deck, 2 cards in hand. So I was up like 4 or 5 cards or something like that to his 2. He might have summoned, something happened, the Alchemist got destroyed. It might have been like a Torrent or something, because he's main decking Mirror Force, Torrents, or Mirror Force, Torrent, and I think Double Threatening. But Alchemist gets destroyed. Banished, I had 1, maybe 2 Heralds, I think. I had 2 Heralds and a Gores banished. A Gores, that was my banished. I was at about 7,000 life points to his 4,000. I wasn't even thinking of a second JD, so maybe there's some misplay on my part because my hand was, again, double Christia. I had this on board, this was banished, double Christia, and I think 1 or 2 back rows. He only had 2 cards in hand. Alch gets destroyed. Instead of getting back to Herald, I got back to Gores, which, again, was probably a mistake on my part, because all I was thinking was, he'll summon a monster attack, I'll be able to special summon this and just deck him out if it's like Lila, Lumina, whatever it might have been. Jane, I don't know. It was actually, after the Alchemist was destroyed, he was able to summon JD, Swing. Maybe I shouldn't have summoned this. Maybe I should have just waited and tried to deck him out, but I did summon. He popped for 1,000 as end phase. And then I lost next turn because he had another monster to bring me down. I think he had like Arcus or something in hand to bring me down from 4,000. So I lost that. Pretty disappointing because I thought I should have won, but there's no way I could have guessed that that was JD that he had in his hand. So it was round 3. Round 4 was against Black Wings, and this guy really destroyed himself turn 1. So I said he was playing the Italian version. The first one was the Italian version. In game 1, I don't think Black Wings is the toughest matchup by any means. All I gotta do is just kind of cycle through recruiters and then just be able to summon something big like Christia. And that actually happened in most of my games, that I just destroyed him with this. So I cycled through my Shining Angels, and at some point he has a Bora, Grepher, Black Whirlwind, and 1 set back row. I go to attack Shining Angel, and I don't know if he was forced to, but he definitely felt like he had to. Icarus attacks, destroying my 1 Shining Angel. So I end up getting rid of 3 of his cards. So his Bora, Grepher, and his Icarus attack are gone just for my Shining Angel, because he knew what was coming. Because as soon as I summoned Christia, he just didn't have a chance to come back, because Christia also just puts itself on top of the deck, which is insane. The second match after that, he beat me proto thoroughly. And then third game, I just cycled through Dialk. So I think this game was the first game where I really just won with Christia. From Dialk and then Christia recycling, I think I used Christia 3 different times. The exact same Christia 3 times this game. From Dialk cycling to my hand and then just returning itself to the top and special summoning, I just kept getting through Christia. So I ended up winning that. At the end of the game, I did just win because finally I got off a return from Different Dimension to bring out Christia, Dialk, and a Herald. And I had Shining Angel in hand. So that was game on board right there. The 4th game was against another, I think this was more Black Wings, not Value Turbo, but again, I don't really know. So this was going into round, is this round 4? This is going into round 5. This guy, game 1, I just beat him down. He didn't have a chance. Game 2, he sides in like 12 cards. I think, actually 9 cards, I believe is what it was. And I was, not good. So he just turned 1 Greffers, sends Vice, sends Soraka, uses its effect, sets 1 back row, and you already know what it is. My opening hand was insane. I will say, my ratios for this deck, very good. My opening hands, generally, through probably 95% of the day, Very, very good. My opening hand was this actually, and then a Warrior Lady and one Speller Trap. This was my opening hand. And all he has is Armed Wing, Greffer, and one set back row. So I'm already thinking, man, he's got the deck dev, but let's go for it. Summon Warrior Lady, try to just get rid of it, just in case. My other card was that's what it was. My other card was Brain Control. So this was my opening hand. Incredible hand against his Greffer, Blackwing, Synchro, one set back row, Warrior Lady, swing, and it is the deck Debbie. So I end up losing all this. And then next turn, he just, I can't get out Christia because I didn't have a fourth fairy. Next turn, he just OTKs me with Dark Arm. So he uses Greffer's effect again, brings out the Armor Master, and he has Dark Arm in hand, and something else, I forget. He has his normal summon too, whatever that was. And then going into game 3, I don't really remember game 3. I'm blanking on this one. I don't remember game 3, but I do know I won. And then we're going into the very last match. This was round 6. I was playing against Heroes. Game 1, this guy just loses all card advantage. He's playing like a Diva hero, but he's playing Diva hero with Mallies. He has the triple Neos Alias, Sparks, and that kind of stuff. Game 1, I just ended up beating him pretty thoroughly. Nothing much to be said. He didn't even know what I was playing, so he really didn't know how to play. He was a Magic player who just kind of got back into the game because he happened to have all these hero cards back from when he did play Yu-Gi-Oh! So I beat him pretty thoroughly. Game 2, he actually just at one point, I was in a really good position because I did have, I think it was either Shining Angel or Nova Summoner I had in defense, but he just ended up being able to Miracle Fusion into into a Absolute Zero. He had like a Go-Yo on board or something, but then he had a second Miracle Fusion to go for the Absolute Zero to blow up my field, and he swung for game. Going into game 3, and this was upsetting. So this was kind of, that top 8 match. This was my opening hand, something similar to it. I don't quite remember, but it was something extremely similar to this. And then I think Bottomless Trap Hole, maybe? I think these were my opening 5, and I don't quite remember what the 6th one was. But essentially, I was going first, so I felt great. I was like, this hand's insane. Summon Thunder King, set the Bottomless. He has Deep Sea Diva, and he actually runs Mermaid Archer. That he didn't use his effect, make Mermaid 2000, swings over this, and then goes E-Call into Stratos. I want to say sets 1 or 2 back row. My turn, I try to go Warrior Lead at a swing to get over it, and just hoping that I can start drawing into something better. I think the other card that I ended up drawing into was Honest, actually. I think it was Honest I drew into. But he had Phoenix Wind Blast. One of his sets was Phoenix Wind Blast, goes back to the top. So this is my hand. He summons Stratos. I do Bottomless it just because I need to get rid of the pressure from it. But he searches an Ocean, which is great for me because I can still get over Ocean with this. But he swings for 2000, so I'm at what, like 59, something like that. It's my turn, draw into Warrior Lady. Summon, go to attack again, and he has a second Phoenix Wind Blast. That goes back to the top. His turn, he already had the Neos Alias in hand. Summons Alias, and swings with both. And on my turn, my goal was all I could do at this point was summon Freed, attack into Alias. I take 200, and then special summon this by banishing these two. And he wasn't able to get over my cards. And he sets 1 back row. And, I couldn't attack because if it's a Mirror Force, I just lose. So he switches both his monsters to defense. I have this. My turn, I summon Warrior Lady. I think about attacking. Actually, I don't. I just set Warrior Lady. Both of his monsters in defense, and he has 1 set back row. Set Warrior Lady, pass. His turn, because I was under 19, I couldn't attack with this. Mirror Force, you're going. Mirror Force or Deep Prison, you're going. Swings over this, and then attacks with the other one. His turn, he just ends up drawing into a water monster with a hero or something already engraved because he had the Ocean, I think is what it was. Did he have Ocean? Either way, just Miracle Fusion brought out his own Absolute Zero. And he had Absolute Zero, the Mermaid Archer, and Alias. And it was too much for me. I couldn't get over it. Because I was able to Honest over the thing, but then it just blew up my field. And then he just won with the other 2. So I ended up losing in the top 2 to some Phoenix Wind Blast and just kind of a bad hand, which is what led me to think like maybe these 2 in conjunction aren't great. I already have a lot of trouble with a lot of trouble with high defense monsters, and these two don't exactly help. So like I said, in the main, I definitely just like, I want these 4 cards in my main deck, and I'll probably work with it a little bit, at least for the Nova Summoners, Shining Angels, and Warrior Ladies, Alchemists, and honest things like that. Those numbers aren't changing. Christia might be something to drop. Dropping one of these two, I don't know. But, you know, let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. Talk to you later. Thanks, bye.